In the warm-up, I've already demonstrated for students how to describe the piecewise function and reminding them how to evaluate f of x and also when given x, and also to evaluate find x when given f of x. And now I'm going to work with them when I go to the guided notes on mostly how to write the equations from and restrict the domain from the graph. So I tell them to look along the x-axis and see where the points are defined for x, for the domain. And so that's what's going to help us set up the inequalities. So if they look from left to right, that first ray from left to right has a closed circle at -1 for the x coordinate, and that line is defined for any x that is equal to -1 or less than -1. So x is less than or equal to -1 is going to be that first restriction, less than or equal to -1. And then if you look at the second line segment, it goes from the x coordinate, if you follow along the x-axis, it goes from, it's also at x equals -1, even though it's an open circle, we're still going to have to define it and just leave our equal sign off on the inequalities. So it's that the line segment is in between -1 and +1. So the solutions for x are in between, not equal to, because they're both open circle, between -1 and +1. And then the last line ray on the graph is going to have again, now it's a closed circle at +1, and any point after or greater than +1 is going to be defined for x as we follow along the x-axis. So that's going to be x is greater than or equal to 1. And then I talked about, well, you need to write the equation of the line if you're going to, if the line was extended, what would the slope be, and could you see where it's crossing the y-axis, and if you can figure that out, those two things, you could write the equation of the line. And remember, when you write piecewise function, f of x is equivalent to y, so they put that on the outside, and then they put the little brackets, and then you write the equation for each line. So how many equations for the lines am I going to have? 3. I have 2 rays and 1 line segment. And so we're going to go ahead and write the equation from left to right. And so that first ray, where the domain was restricted from x less than or equal to -1, that is going to have a slope of 1 up and 1 to the right, which is going to be 1. And then if you continue counting, it's going to cross the y-axis at +2. So that's going to be 1x plus 2. And remember, you don't have to put y equals because that's already on the outside for all of the equations. And so now you have the second line segment, if you were writing the equation, because you've already restricted the domain. So the slope of that line is also 1 up and 1 to the right if you look at this slope triangle. And so that's going to be a slope of 1 crossing at 3 on the y-axis, so that's going to be x plus 3, and you've already restricted the domain to make it a line segment. And then the last equation line also has a slope of 1 up and 1 to the right. So that's also going to be 1 in front of the x for slope. And then it's going to cross, if you go down 1 over 1, that's going to cross at +1 on the y-axis. So that's how you're going to write the equations after you restrict the domains.